And we're back with episode 2.
Girl, you cannot. I wish you guys would have seen what she was doing right before we got started. But what's up? Hi, ski. Ski.
I could do it right this time.
I know, do it. Do it one more time. Ski. Oh, you dropped it low.
I get it real low.
Okay, yeah. Sexy Red. She's like, ski.
I'll save getting low for later, though.
Oh, it's going to be that. It's going to be that.
We're back. Wooed up.
Back. Yeah, wooed up. Second episode. Hi, friends. Thank you guys so much for coming back. Like, I guess y'all liked what we did there.
The Canadians loved it.
Shout out to Canada.
Yes. And the Australians, I think it was.
Shout out to the Aussies from down under. That's. I'm so sorry. That was not.
Was that kosher?
It wasn't. It didn't give what it was supposed to give.
No, it's okay.
We might be able to edit that out.
Yeah, let's.
Mahal.
Yeah. Speaking of Mahal, we are sponsored by Mahal Hut Tea. It is fucking delicious. This is lavender, black or licorice root, and chamomile milk tea.
Cheers. Salud.
Santé.
Delicious.
So good.
Play that music. Okay. All right. Tiffany, what are we talking about today?
Ooh, girl, we've had a request, and the request is conflict. So today is the subject of conflict and how we handle that.
Yes.
I think speaking about it from terms of now when we're in our healing era and also what it looked like when we were not in our healing era, because at least for me, that was two different beasts.
Yeah, same.
And also when we had the request from someone, a viewer. Shout out to that viewer, you know who you are, about conflict. And guess what happened?
We got in a wee bit of a spat, eh?
We got in a little bit of a conflict.
Just a wee bit one. So we'll be sharing about that experience and what it looks like when two baddies along a healing journey are also still trying to get their lives together. So if you're here for the tea, not just the Mahal Hut tea, but if you're here for the Kiki, then stay tuned because we'll definitely be chatting about that. But just to get started, do you want to just share a little bit about conflict, your relationship with conflict, your experiences in that, both in the past and maybe how that's transitioned in the future into this present?
Yes. Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah.
For steering us to this. Oh, good Lord. Oh, conflict. Okay, I'm already sweating thinking about it.
Girl, I'm a little sweaty too. It's a little hot in here.
Yeah, it gets me a little sweaty thinking about conflict. I think that's been the hardest journey for me, conflict, but also the biggest change. And we know the hardest things that we deal with and that we heal through is our best gifts on the other side, and our biggest growth potential, and how we're able to potentially help others through
1,000%.
Once we're able to kind of navigate the waters and whatever that might be. Mine, I think, is conflict. Conflict resolution is one of many of my issues.
We'll say shadows. Shadows,
yeah.
How the woo-wooers call them.
Yes, exactly. So I think that being an attorney for 10 years, conflict was on the forefront. I mean, that was my career, was conflict and how to resolve conflict and the best way to navigate conflict. And we know, at least in life in general, but also in law school, we're taught how to navigate conflict in a multitude of ways. Yeah. So it's really crazy if you've never been to law school, but in law school, they literally teach you how to utilize the English language to the best of your ability to obtain whatever it is you want. Yeah. And you practice on all sides of the cylinders of whatever that conflict is to see if you can obtain the resolution from whatever point of view you're basically given. So really learning to manipulate the English language is where I, started my whole conflict resolution in law school. Before that, I was just a tyrant. I was just an absolute tyrant. And even after that, an absolute tyrant. I think that before I found my healing journey and my spirituality, I tended to let it all hang out. If I had a problem, I would speak about it. I'm an Aries. I'm a fire sign. Aries is the infantile sign of the zodiacs, and so I would throw temper tantrums. I would scream. I would shout. I would do whatever I wanted to do without thinking beforehand whether or not it was appropriate. And that's how I was raised. We would, in my family, we would scream and shout at each other. We even had physical fights, unfortunately. And so this is honestly a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I've been there. I've been in the depths of it. I've watched kind of, quite frankly, the horrors of what it can look like. I said I wasn't going to cry.
Oh, baby.
So yeah, I've been there and I've seen how bad it can get. I've been in abusive relationships. I've turned abusive in relationships, and that's where my journey with conflict started and was a majority of my life. And I don't wish it upon anybody. And if you're out there dealing with that right now, I am here. If you need to talk about it, I'm here to help get you help. But I pray that you find the power and the strength to get out of that relationship that you might be in that is abusive in any way. But through that journey that I've been on that looks like that, I've learned that there are healthy ways of dealing with conflict.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be physical. You don't have to physically act out your anger or your issues, and you don't have to verbally, accost someone, or at least that's not the best way to do it, is what I'm trying to say. Not that those things don't happen still, but it's definitely a journey, and it's definitely something that I'm still working on, admittedly. Like we said earlier, we got into a conflict, and I definitely raised my voice in that moment, which we can get into later. But I think that, finding your emotions in that moment when you're dealing with the conflict, because they're arising and they're stirring, and finding where that emotion is coming from, identifying what that emotion is before you act on it. That was my first step in my healing journey.
Like actually recognizing it, taking stock of it, really being with yourself in that moment and seeing like, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
And how my body is responding to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because before, my go-to response, which was always a protection mechanism, a shield, was anger. That was all my emotions were anger. I never knew what my actual real emotion was until I learned how to pause. And therapy helps me with that. I learned how to pause and be like, okay, I feel angry right now. But it's if you go deeper, you feel betrayal, you feel sadness, you feel bitter. There's more in there, and then you sit with it.
Right.
And it's just an emotion.
Right.
So that emotion typically will disappear and dissipate within a minute and a half, I believe it is. And then as long as you don't ruminate and keep that story going in your head, then that emotion should disappear from your body. You can shake it out, dance it out, just sit with it, and it should go.
Yeah.
And then you can have a clearer mind to figure out, why did I feel this way? Why, what is the underlying issue here? And then that's when I think the best conflict resolution comes from, is after you've been able to clear that emotion that you're feeling and think about why you were feeling that way, and then come back with a clear mind and communicate that.
Right.
So damn girl, my journey with conflict has been a roller coaster, dark and light, and it continues to evolve and grow. But as I'm sitting here talking about it, I can literally see and feel like how far I've come. And so just giving myself the grace of knowing you're doing the work, you're acknowledging it, you're growing, it is happening. And so just honoring myself in that,
Yeah.
because everyone's journey does look different. And
Yeah.
as much as I can feel shame for my anger being a woman, where women I think are typically taught like, oh, go cry about it,
Right.
Or go, sulk about it and be alone about it.
Right.
I was the opposite. I was more like the masculine, maybe this is just my interpretation of it, but I was more of the masculine outward,
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
And so I'm trying to love that part of me still and honor that.
Right.
And just, continue to do the healing work. And so that's a very general, deep story of my conflict history. But like I said, near and dear to my heart. And I hope to help others that are going through what I've been through or continue to go through. Because it will be a lifelong journey. And I appreciate that I've been given that path, because I can see the glimmer of the light more times than not.
Girl, I mean, I feel like I just need to take a breath. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, because that's a lot. And I think that for a lot of people, we all kind of have our own burdens to bear, our own things to work through, or how, when we were brought here on this earth, it's like, whatever your belief system is, but we're created in this way. And then we have our environment, what nature versus nurture when it comes to psychology. And you can think about the biology behind emotions and chemicals and hormones and how that interacts in the body. But when you think about on the grander scale of like what that actually looks like, and for you to be able to sit here and share your story is really, it's beautiful, because it is, I feel like, different, just like what you said about there being this way in which women are expected to handle emotions and men. And for men, it's okay if they outwardly express their emotions or their anger or their frustration or whatever the case may be. I mean, I've seen men punch a hole in the wall. I don't know if you've seen that before.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. To the men that do that, get some help. And I say that with love. But something like that, like I've never seen a woman do that, or I've never seen a woman, or rarely I should say, exist in that kind of energy. And so I really respect and appreciate your process and the way that you see and feel and experience that emotion, because that is completely different than my own experience. And we'll talk about that here soon. But also just to, shout out to the other women that are out there who either have a similar experience as you, or people who've been put into situations where they are existing in that fight or flight energy, or they're surrounded by someone who may not necessarily be doing the work, or may think it's impossible to change or grow or heal along that way. You're sitting here saying that you either change the people or you change the people. You either make that change within yourself, or the person that you're with has to make that change, or otherwise, you have to figure out a way that's most aligned for you and your highest self along that journey. So
it's a lot, living in fight or flight for most of my life. And I can say that now looking back, I was living in fight or flight most of my life. Whether that was how I was raised, the relationships I got into, or even my career, I remained in fight. I really was never a flight person. I was like, let's handle this, let's take it on. I never really fawned or froze either. I remained in fight for most of my life. And I know, getting to know you're the opposite. And I've watched you handle conflict, not just with me, but with others. But I'm curious if you've always been like that when you're handling conflict, like before your spiritual journey, or what that looked like prior to that.
Tell me. We can't just keep talking about you.
No,
Are you sure?
No, we got to go to you, girl. It's your turn.
My armpits are sweating.
I told you.
A little bit. It got a little hot. Well, I am a Cancer through and through. And I am very much, I'd like to say, in touch with emotions, not just within myself, but within other people. And my number one priority tends to be, making sure that other people are doing well, are feeling good, that the vibes are right, that we're all in good spirits, good vibration. We're keeping the peace, good, cool, calm, collected energy. And when energy is not that, Oh my God, baby Cancerian me would just peace out. I'd be like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I gotta go. I gotta go.
You flight.
Yeah, I was. You were a fighter, girl. I was already gone. I was already peaced out.
You knew before the fight was happening.
Literally, I'm like, oh, the way that she's looking at that person, this don't look good. I'm gonna grab my keys and I'm gonna go because mama's not dealing with that. And that just, I think, stems from a lot of other like deep-seated thoughts and feelings about how I perceived myself to be, whether that's believing in my own self-confidence, believing in my own strength, believing in myself and my ability to speak up for myself or show up or support myself the way I support other people, which is so funny because when it's conflict from someone else to like my group of people or my friends, family to my squad, it is a hard no. And even back in the day, it did not matter. I would not tolerate that disrespect or any other sort of things that I may probably would have shied away from if it was just one-on-one, some person like attacking me or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I definitely come from more of that kind of space energetically. And, you can say you're more quick to anger. I'm more quick to sadness. I was literally saying before we started that I felt like a cry was going to come from me, from my heart space. So it may still come. Or maybe I was tapping into your energy, but I also would love to have a good cry right now. Like for me, crying is so cathartic and it's so beautiful. And kind of touching back to what it was that you were saying earlier, it's interesting how, I feel like there's anger and there's sadness, and they're two completely different ends on this spectrum. And sadness is considered more of the digestible emotion in comparison to anger. And it's funny because that big feeling can all stem from the same bottom feeling, whether that is feeling
feeling unsafe, feeling unloved, feeling unwanted,
exactly,
feeling disregarded,
and
feeling
it can
not
have
accepted.
the same root cause,
Yeah.
but it shows up and expresses itself in a completely different way. So I find that to be really interesting. And so for me, being a Cancer, being really in touch with my emotions, being more tapping into the sadness more over than anger, and retreating was always my way. And as I started to grow through my own spiritual journey, self-growth journey, learning about myself, learning to love myself in like a true, authentic way. It's still a journey that we will all continue to go on, but somewhere down the line through life experiences and then, more deep connection to myself, more awareness of who I am truly, like under my meat suit, I learned that like you're not gonna fuck with me. You know what I
I'm
mean?
unfuckable.
I'm not you. I mean, we can go toe to toe, but like you're not gonna want to do that. You're not gonna want to do that, And I'm gonna let you know why you're not gonna want to do that. And that's more so the energy that I feel like I have whenever a conflict comes about.
You exude that without having to say anything.
I feel that way because I feel like there is this strength within me that's like unmovable and unshakable, and I'm not going to bow down and I'm not going to bow out.
Yeah.
Now, there's a difference between, that energy when you know that you're right, or that energy when you know that you're wrong, or that energy, it depends on the conflict, right? Because I'm not going to show up to a knife fight and, I brought a slingshot. Like,
Yeah, girl, I would.
And then I tend to try to, as you said, take a moment now and take stock of the situation and try to undergo that emotional regulation there in the moment as best as I can.
Yeah.
And one thing I love so much about my mom, you guys will hear me talk about my mom. Shout out to Mama Washington, Sweet
Mama
Tea. Mama T, she's that girl. A lot of the notions that I'll express during our times together, a lot of it will come from her. But she always told me that you can say anything in the world that it is that you want to say. It's just the way in which you say it. And so that taught me that, regardless of what the situation is, if you can speak through clear communication, that is all you can do.
Yeah.
Because no matter how that person or how someone else on the other side of that conflict feels about that experience, you have done the best you can. And that is all you can do. And so for me, instead of retreating back, it's more of like, okay, no, this is how I perceive the situation. This is my version of reality. And I'm going to stand up in that. Also keeping room for, for error. Like I could be completely wrong and maybe I just need to hear someone else out too. So it's, I whenever I come into a situation of conflict, I do always try to keep my eyes and my ears open to recognize that I am still human or I'm still having this human experience and that I am not 100% right all the time either. Maybe a good 99.5, but not 100, you know what I mean? So I do try to still keep that in mind and regulate my emotions fairly quickly. And so it is a different experience when you're coming from that like, I feel like anger is such an outward experience where sadness is such like a deep, like crumbling feeling of, and it quite literally, I would describe it as a crumble. It's like, you're playing Jenga and you pull the one and then it just topples. Like that's how sadness and grief feels within me and moments of conflict. And it does tend to start off that way, but as more conflict happens, as you continue to grow, as you continue to learn, do shadow work and really check inventory and check stock on yourself, then I feel like it becomes easier and easier to show up and show out for those situations and hopefully find resolution. Because I need resolution. I don't do well with what's that word that I'm looking for?
Like unresolved.
Yes. Yeah. It's got to be resolved, honey. I gotta put that period at the end of the sentence.
Well, and I think that everybody wants resolution. Nobody wants any type of friction lying out there with anybody, especially that people that you care about. But I also think that it is so important to honor somebody else who's not ready for resolution.
1,000%.
Yeah, and that's something I've had to learn for myself. Like I always wanted resolution, but sometimes that meant not feeling into what I'm feeling and letting those go and thinking clearly, speaking clearly, and that's just going to cause more issues if you're sitting there trying to get resolution when you don't even know what the resolution is that you want or why you're feeling that way. Right. So I think that and honestly, I'm really speaking to myself right now. when someone says I need a moment to speak or to go into my bedroom and journal or to meditate or take a walk, take a hike. I need a space from whoever the person is to honor that and to know that is actually a good thing and that they're actually saying, I want to make this something important and reach a healthy resolution because you matter to me. And I think we should all take that and honor that and respect that. And especially even when there is someone reaching out for resolution and they've had a clear mind and they're like, hey, I've thought about this, because everyone processes things differently, different time spans. So, if someone reaches out and is like, yeah, I definitely am ready to talk and I apologize, I'm sorry for this, and they lay it out, the other person doesn't have to be ready at that point in time. They might need a lot more time. And you, again, need to honor that. Like, you may be ready and thinking clearly, but always honoring when someone requests time, even though you both clearly want resolution, I think is even more important than the resolution itself. Because the resolution's going to come if it's meant to be there. And I think ultimately it will, because nobody likes sitting out there with some friction just like on the side. But I have a question for you, because I know we're very different when it comes to processing conflict, but you did mention when it comes to your people coming at your friends.
Oh, yeah.
How do you behave in those manners, and has that changed over time?
I think that energy that I used to have prior to like my spiritual journey is still very similar to the way it is now. I find that I don't normally feel upset about things very often. I'm very good with the flow or very understandable or can, okay, well, this happened and 1+1 = 2. And the reason why that happened was probably this. And so yeah, that's fine. Things very, roll off my shoulders. And so I don't think that I would be even in those moments when it came to my friends and seeing my friends on the other side of a conflict, that I would just pop off for whatever reason. But now I'm still very much the same way the way that I operate. I think that for me, one of the big reasons why I would have conflict or what is the most common type of conflict that I'll experience is disrespect. And disrespect for me is I think that it's just like a moral, to be disrespectful to another person is almost just like, I don't even care about who you are, your essence, your journey, your experience, the very frame of who you are as a person, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's how I take disrespect.
Yeah.
And so now along this journey, I don't allow people to disrespect me in that way. But even more so with friends and family and loved ones. We can use that example from when we went out and about to
on the strip.
Yeah, when we went to Pegasus. If you're in San Antonio, you know.
You've been.
If you've been, Hanny, and that says a lot. We're just gonna move on for that. But I say all that to say that there was a moment and that we experienced.
Want some tea for this tea?
I would love some tea for this tea. Thank you. We were at Pegasus and we were just standing there, just me and some friends, just hanging out, kikiing, chatting along. And this girl was there and she had said some words that weren't directed towards me, but directed to the group. And it immediately was like, no, no, because it did come with that disrespectful energy. And so yeah, something like that will light me up immediately. And it's a hard no for me. And I could care less if my friends didn't feel the intention behind what was said or how it was said. I felt it. I noticed it. And so we're not going to do that.
Yeah. And I think as you're saying that, that used to be my biggest trigger. Like, you're going to disrespect me? Like, no. And, or even my family, I remember when we were younger, my sister would come and be like, this girl's picking on me. And I run out the house. I'm like,
hard
what
no.
girl?
Yeah,
Let me chase this bus
Ride
down.
or die for your people. Yeah.
And I still am. But I think also there comes this reflection of disrespect or respect. And is that them? The person that is disrespecting you, is that on them and where they come from and their own problems? And at that point, do you then go, that's you. You're disrespecting me right now.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. I'm not going to accept that.
Absolutely.
I'm walking away. You figure that out.
Yeah.
Because I think also, I'm thinking of even during our conflict where I'm sure in that in our argument or whatever you want to call it, you would say, you felt disrespected. And I think you probably even said that when we were talking and I was yelling. And you were like, what you're not going to do is yell at me because that's disrespectful. And in my mind, I'm like, well, is yelling really disrespectful? Because right now I'm just saying my point. But at the same time, I'm thinking about do I not respect you? And it's one of those things where it's like, I know that I respect you, hella respect you, look up to you, admire you, full throttle, full send, you are that bitch. We know that.
Make me cry.
Girl, let it go. It's okay. I got you. I'll hold you. But at the same time, I know that my disrespect came from my not respecting myself.
Okay.
Because if I respected myself, then I would have been able to stand there in a respectful manner and communicated my feelings in a clear, concise, and respectful way.
Right.
But it comes down to when you don't take the time to honor yourself and what you're feeling, say from that day, then you're gonna fall back into those old patterns.
Yeah,
and
it's so easy to. It's so easy to.
Totally, it's quick. It can happen. It can happen like that. And so it's just a matter of when you find yourself in your weakest moments, giving yourself more time so that you don't fall back into those old patterns where you are doing things that you would not approve of.
Yep.
If you were kind of out here looking in.
Seeing yourself. Yeah. I feel like you've taken us to church. You've said so many things, and we could continue to go down this rabbit hole of self-work and reflection and feelings and, you know, the dynamics between you and other people and your past and your present. And we will continue to go down that path because
we're going to pause.
We're going to take a quick pause here.
We're going to do a little dance break.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come back for episode 3.
Part 2 of conflict resolution.
Ski!
Oh, were you going to do that?
Yeah, I was.
Ski!
Whoop, whoop.
All right, y'all. We'll see you here soon. Bye! Ew, 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 ew.